Hello everyone, welcome back to the Struggling Minds YouTube channel. I'm Thunder, and today's video will be based on paranormal events that happened to me during my teenage years. Now, these events I cannot logically explain, but I do believe that they are the initial situations that led to my diagnosis. Quick disclaimer, if you scare easily, I advise you to turn this video off right now. Enjoy! So around when I was 16, I was learning to play the Qing instrument at this place called Hmong American Friendship Association. Now, the Qing is an instrument usually used to play at funerals to send the deceased to the other world. Other times the instrument would be at gatherings to perform and show off one's skills. At Hafa, we use notes to play the Qing. It was a different approach from the traditional way of watching and listening to your master play the Qing. I was learning to play Qing Toa, and that could translate to the Song of Death for simpler terms. Now, that was when the paranormal events started happening. It was when I was learning that song. At Hafa, I would normally be the last one to leave, and I wouldn't get home until 10 to 10:30 at night. Also, luckily I drove, so that made life a little bit easier. My jarrings are a bit horrible, but bear with me, okay? So, my backyard was fenced in with wooden fences. We didn't have a garage, but we did have just parking spots in the back. At that time, my older sister and her young girls, ages 1 through 9, lived with us. Well, one night as I got to the gate, it was different. I opened my door, I walked out, and then I heard a baby crying behind me. I thought it was one of my nieces who was behind me, maybe locked out of the house or something. I wasn't sure. But when I looked behind me, nobody was there. But the crying continued, and I knew I was in a bad spot. Immediately, I remembered my stepmother and my father telling me that if situations like that were to happen, to ignore it and act like you didn't see it. So that's what I did. I drove my car up into my parking spot, and yeah, the whole time the crying was loud, it was clear, and it was as if it was following me. As I got out of my car again, after I parked my car, I walked in the notion that I wasn't aware of what was happening. When I got inside the house, I made sure and I counted all my nieces were present, all 5 of them, laughing, being naughty, and not having care in the world. So immediately, I called my stepmother and my father to come downstairs to tell them what happened. Like all Hmong adults do, they just told me to let it go, and then nothing happened. About a year later, I broke up with my current girlfriend at that time. Now, she was bright, intelligent, and she always made me laugh. But I was a troubled teen, and I didn't know what I wanted in my life. So, yeah. That night that I broke up with her, the crying came back. Now, I was crying before that too though. I slept downstairs on the first floor, towards the front of the house. In my room, there were these big windows, and my bed was next to the windows. So the crying was coming from there, outside of the windows, and I had this idea that I should go and find it. Now, I did leave my room in the middle of the night in pitch dark, just wandering. Yeah, I walked into the kitchen and the crying stopped. I looked around to try to find the light switch, but there it was. I looked towards the basement door and there was this black shadow just standing there, as if it knew I could see it and it was waiting for me to respond to it. Yeah. So then, without doing anything, I turned back to my room. I just walked. I closed the door. I laid down and went to sleep. And then almost a year later again, there was a story of a woman who was slain by her boyfriend. A week before her funeral, I found out that they were the neighbors who lived a block away from us. Now, when I was in middle school, I would always walk past their house through this alley to get to my bus stop. So being a Hmong kid, my dad always had me walk up to the caskets to pay my respects. But at her funeral, it was different. As I walked up to her casket, I felt so much remorse when I saw her. You could see her neck was thinner than it should be. It was as if you could see the ropes. The ropes were the grooves, the creases, the whatever you want to call it, the markings. You could see it around her neck. And then you could see her fingers too. They were purple with the same markings. And then I thought, she really fought for her life. And what kind of an opponent her boyfriend was to her in her final moments. You know, I think about it to this day, about how she went. But yeah, it was the era of where the older Hmong men were going to Laos to try to find a younger spouse. My stepmother and my dad had a falling out, so yeah, he was being a bad guy, and I really hated that. So when he was gone, I was at my cousin's place, and we were always playing WWE SmackDown. Great game. And it was around 11 to 12 at night when I decided to go home. So I drove home, and as I was driving past the parents' daughter who was slain, their van was parked in the usual spot, across the alley, but on their side of the house. And there it was, again, a black figure by the rear of the van, just standing there. And I stopped my car to take a double look. But yeah, it disappeared to the backside of the van. And that was then and there I knew that it wasn't safe to go home. So I decided to go back to my cousin's place. As I got to my destination, I parked my car in their backyard too. There was this little girl singing to me. It was clearly in English, and it was the song London Bridges Falling Down. As I got inside my cousin's house, I asked the one who was awake if he could hear the little girl singing. He replied no. So that night, I went to bed at their place with the little girl singing me to sleep. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope I didn't scare you guys too much. The next video will be more educational about my mental illnesses. But yeah, thank you. And remember, you're not alone. Have a good one.